Uh-oh. The clock just struck 7. That means I have to start camera chat. Ah, it looks like it's on. Hi, camera chatters. It's me, your host, Jim Selleck. Welcome to another exciting episode of Camera Chat. Now let me just see if I can tune in myself. Yeah, there we are. Okay. Instead of looking at myself on the screen, I'm going to be following comments, as long as I can find the comments. So far, I'm just seeing a picture of myself frozen, so I sure hope that's not what you're seeing. Well, anyway, today I am not here with my erstwhile companion in chat, Thomas Nicewander, although he has promised that he will be watching online. You know what? I think I'm going to take my phone and try to hook up to see, I have to see the show at some point, and it's not really working here on the computer. So let me just... By the way, welcome to the inner sanctum, the underground headquarters of Roland Detroit Films, where we are shooting today. Although I am continuing to wear the red traditional Camera Chat shirt. Have you noticed that? You probably haven't, because this is probably your first time seeing the show. But yes, I wear the same red shirt every Tuesday for Camera Chat. I have another red shirt that I wear for other occasions. This one is strictly for this. So if it falls apart, we're just going to have to stop doing the show. Let's see, Facebook. Okay. And we want Camera Chat. There we go. I'm going to find it somewhere. There I am. I'm speaking. All right. Look, hey, Chris. Christopher Akers is listening. This is really cool. Okay. Oh, wait. We try to turn the volume down here. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to be able, for the first time ever, to see who's commenting. So ask me questions. Our plan for today was to do a spring fever show where we would talk about all the cool photo opportunities that are out there in the spring. With the ice finally melting, well, so much that we had ice this year. In Michigan, there was not nearly as much as we usually have. And, of course, the birds are returning. At our house, we have the very large birds. We have sandhill cranes that nest in our backyard. We have kind of a swampy area back there. Oh, I see Thomas Nicewander is watching. Hi, Tom. Hey, this time I can actually see you watching. Thomas says, "You're doing it all wrong, Jim." Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Actually, he didn't say that. He just said hi. Hi, Thomas. Okay. I want to introduce you to my camera because, we can't have Thomas here today, so I'm going to show you what I shoot with. This is my trusty Nikon D750 with the 24-120, which is the lens I use as a walkabout lens. I actually got this as a kit lens that came with the, it's not a kit lens really, it's a little bit better quality than that, but it was a package lens that came. I bought this from B&H Photo in New York, which is only one of many fine dealers that I like dealing with. And I've had this since about 2015. It did have to go back to Nikon for a major overhaul at one point. And they were extremely good about doing service. Let's see. Wait a minute. Where is it? Where is it? Hi. There's the camera. Hi. Oh, okay. Hello, Mr. Nikon. Yeah. And, well, I actually like to shoot on my phone as well. And I have other little point-and-shooters. And I do a lot of video shooting as well. Because, of course, Roland Detroit Films, we do make movies. Let's talk. Let's see. We have so much time here. Oh, Christopher. Hi, Jim Hudeman is watching. Hi. Nice to have you here. I think we're... This is interesting. I'm seeing two pictures of myself now. One of them is the actual live feed, and the other one is the not live feed, and it's really weird. I hope you can you hear me? By the way, it looks like all my VU meters are showing everything's fine. Let's see. I have a whole bunch of things that we're not hooked up to right now, so I better not switch screens anywhere. This is we should do the splash screen. Welcome to Camera Chat, brought to you tonight by Roland Detroit Films. Sorry, that was our announcer, Phil. Let's try talking about photography for a moment. And I know our commitment is to not get too technical, but let's just take a few moments to talk about how cameras work without getting too technical. Now, this is where, Thomas is probably having a heart attack on the other end. Oh no, Jim's going to get all kinds of technical. By the way, I can do the Vulcan salute. Both hands. Not everybody can do that with both hands. I just thought I'd show that off to you. This would go a lot better if I had actually planned it or rehearsed it or written it out or even written out some talking points. But also the fact that I have never tried to explain how cameras work to anyone in my life ever before could mean that we're in for some trouble. Thomas, on the other hand, does workshops and he explains to people how their cameras work every day. And I can only assume that it's you point it over here, you push the button, you're done. And that's true, especially with phones these days. But I think it's important to kind of understand so that you can eventually get down to the idea of using the mysterious manual mode on your mode dial. Oh, hi, there's a few other people. Hi, nice to see you. Some folks I've never met personally before, but I hope I get a chance to. And Donald Trump is on. Oh no, excuse me, it's a misspelling. So basically, a camera is just a little dark box with a tiny hole in one side that lets the light in. And that hole is called the aperture. And we normally put a little glass lens in front of that little hole in order to help us focus the light that goes through the hole in hopes that it's going to create an image on the back of the little dark box. That's really as complicated as it gets. The cameras were discovered in the Stone Age, I think, long before anybody invented film or a way to capture. It was probably some person who was in a dark space for some reason on a bright sunny day, and there was a little hole in the wall, and imagine their shock and surprise when in the opposite wall they saw a picture of what was outside the cave, only it was upside down. We won't go into why it's upside down. That's more complicated than we're going to get. But can you imagine? I'm sure that person probably immediately reported to their local shaman or, religious authority, and they were probably immediately burned at the stake for being, in touch with the devil or something like that. Well, that story didn't go very well. All right, let's continue. The size of that little hole in the wall is called the aperture, and it can go from very, very tiny to very, very large. And that controls what's called our depth of field. And that's a concept that people have a little bit of trouble wrapping their heads around. But let's try it. Let's go for it. Let's start with an aperture that's large. The light that goes through there is all kinds of disorganized. It's shooting in all different directions, and it is not cohesive, and it's not glued together at all. And that makes it possible for the lens to only focus a very narrow little space. As the lens moves, that space moves back and forth in the field. You're in focus out here, but it's only a few inches or, a very small amount. and then out to here. As you make that hole smaller, that depth of field gets longer until when you get a very, very small aperture, pretty much everything from right in front of the lens out to infinity can look like it's in focus. That's your widest depth of field. And that's the most important initial concept to learn, is that inverse relationship. The smaller the hole, the longer the depth of field. The larger you make the hole, the more light you let in, but the cost to that is the depth of field gets narrower and narrower and narrower. But in many cases, we like the narrow depth of field because we like portraits, for example, to have the background to be out of focus. So we'll do that by widening out that aperture and then focusing very, very carefully to make sure that the subject of our portrait is perfectly in focus. That's half of it. Actually, that's 3/4 of it. The other piece that you're mainly in control of is your shutter speed. So we have aperture and shutter speed. And if you remember last week when we were talking about that mysterious mode dial, you can have aperture priority and shutter priority. That means that you can set your aperture where you want it, and the camera will then automatically change your shutter speed. Or you can set it on shutter priority and you control the shutter speed, which is how fast you stop action and movement in front of the camera. And then the camera will automatically set your aperture to compensate. Are we getting too complicated now? We're probably getting too complicated. This may turn into the first episode of Camera Chat Tech Talk, but I think I'm almost done. I'm almost done because really those two things are the most important things to know, is that when you're in manual mode, you are controlling manually yourself your aperture, the size of the hole that the light's coming in, which controls your depth of field, and the shutter speed. Let's see, who else is talking? Thomas is saying, you're doing it all wrong, Jim. Okay. Thank you for the feedback. He didn't say that. I'm just kidding. You know, he's very supportive, that Tom. The other thing that is the most important thing to me when I'm taking pictures is the ISO, which is the sensitivity of the light sensor. And that is, it's kind of an electronic game that's played to mirror what we used to have with film. And what we still have if you shoot with film is, as many people are taking film back up and rediscovering it. But the ISO is how sensitive your sensor is to light, how much light it needs in order to make a good picture. Between the three, your ISO, your shutter speed, and your aperture size, those are pretty much, that comprises manual mode. Yes, there are a few more things in there too, but you have the choice of lens that you're using, the F number of the lens, which is how fast it is, how much light it lets in, or its maximum aperture. And then it starts getting complicated from there. But I think that's as far as I want to take it right now, because I don't want to leave people behind in the dust. But really, how long did it take? 5 minutes to explain those things? There's only 5 minutes worth of complexity in a camera, really, when it comes right down to it. So it's something you can learn. There's a lot of fields where it takes years and years to learn all the technical stuff involved. Doing surgery, in manual mode, I wouldn't recommend it unless you have at least, 20 years of experience. For me, I wouldn't recommend it ever. I'm not safe with a scalpel in my hand. But camera, sure. A few weeks of playing with it, working with it all the time, and you can get a pretty good feel for how it's done. In the spring, when there's all those great birds out there, did I tell you about the sandhill cranes? They are crazy animals. They come around, they've got these big long legs, and they're heavy. They must be like 20 or 30 pounds apiece. And when you come out the front of the house, they give you the eye. They say, yeah, what are you doing out here? And I think they could do some serious damage. I do not want to tangle with a sandhill crane, just take them out. Oh, that looked interesting. Hey, too bad we should do this in 3D. We'll go, welcome to 3D theater. Okay, I think I'm going off the deep end now, off the rails. I see Charles Rollo. Hi, Charles. How you doing? Yes, after the days of push processing, says Charles. Nobody's going to understand what that means, except for Thomas. Thomas still shoots film. I think we are going to wrap up this episode of Camera Chat for today. I don't know exactly. Let's see, what time is it? According to my little computer clock, actually, we did pretty well. These shows are supposed to go 20 minutes, and we are at minute number 16 right now. Let's throw you back on here on the screen, and we will do our little acknowledgments. As always, we owe a debt of gratitude to Westbourne Camera in Dearborn, Michigan. We normally shoot in their palatial Livonia offices, their warehouse location, which not tonight, but probably tomorrow, next week, unless we're going to try to be putting together some Skype pairings to prepare for the summer when Thomas will be out there across the country taking groups. Of course, National Photography Workshops is Thomas's company that he uses. The current epidemic situation, of course, is put scheduling of all kinds of things like that on hold, but we're hoping that within a few weeks things will normalize and the summer will continue as planned. And of course, Roland Detroit Films, which we are, of course, in the Roland Detroit Films secret underground studios right now. It's not really underground, by the way. It's half underground, as you can see from the window showing the outside out there. Just don't ignore that. But yeah, so the ground is right about here. So we are half underground, and we try harder. So for Thomas and Charles, hey buddy, Charles, nice to see you. So for everyone listening and everyone who will be listening in the future, welcome and thank you for coming to see Camera Chat. And that, I'm going to say, is a wrap.